Joining us now to talk more about that bright future is Steve Jones from the Louisville Courier-Journal. Steve, thank you for joining us. I know Kentucky fans are really excited, of course, about this recruiting class. Give us your take. How would you grade Mark Stoops in his first 2 months, the group that he put together?
It would be hard not to grade it an A. I mean, considering that they're probably on the brink of definitely a top 30, if not a top 25 class in the country. Had if the old staff was still in place, it's hard to imagine where they would be ranked, but it would not be that high. I would think probably would be more in the 50 or 60 range, with probably not nearly any of the four-star guys that they have now. And yeah, I mean, they've done it all in the matter of 2 months. I think that among the 22 or so commitments, maybe at least 13 or 14 of them have all been since Mark Stoops has been hired. And basically all of the ones that are the most highly regarded guys have all been since he's been hired. They just got in on a group, a different sort of caliber of player, competing against a lot more prestigious programs and beating out prestigious programs. I mean, Jason Hatcher beat USC, Ryan Timmons beat Ohio State and Florida, Marcus McWilson beat Nebraska, Zadarius Smith beat Texas A&M and Florida State. And that's just not something that's been happening at Kentucky until the 2013 class.
Jason Hatcher at Trinity, that's a school where Kentucky has traditionally had a lot of trouble getting in there and kind of getting a foot in the door. Also, the city of Louisville is a battleground with Charlie Strong and sometimes difficult to get guys to come to Lexington. Considering all the things that went into the Hatcher recruitment and what he said about UK and things like that, how much of a score was it for Mark Stoops to get a commitment from Hatcher?
I mean, it's a big deal in my opinion. Going back a couple years ago, I mean, everybody has known Jason Hatcher and James Quick from Trinity, and Ryan White also from Trinity. He's going to Vanderbilt. Everybody knew these three guys for at least since they were sophomores, that they were going to be the next big thing, that they all were going to be major recruits. And it just really seemed like Kentucky wasn't going to have a chance to get any of them. When Joker was the coach, obviously James Quick, that never really materialized, and he was always more focused on Louisville and Ohio State. But even Hatcher, to an extent, I mean, and I thought he did always seem somewhat, intrigued by the idea of playing the SEC. But he just seemed like he was going to be looking at Alabama and Oklahoma and Florida, and then ultimately USC, but never really Kentucky, and also Louisville. I figured he would be involved with too. But the fact that in 2 months' time they were able to convince him that he could come home and stay home and really have a happier college experience at UK, have a chance to be on play for a defense that had coaches that really excelled at a Florida State. I mean, it's a big deal, and obviously everybody in Louisville and everybody at Trinity and everybody in this knows about Jason Hatcher. If Jason Hatcher is good enough to go to, if Kentucky's good enough to get Jason Hatcher, then maybe the next player out of Trinity or Louisville may have that same opinion.
Now, offensively, Kentucky, they got a couple of offensive linemen, and then they got some guys that appear to be playmakers, receivers, running backs. Well, when you look at the players on the offensive side of the ball that Kentucky signed, who's a guy or maybe two guys that you think can really come in and make an impact, maybe if it's not in the first game, but pretty early into their career, that they can be impact kind of guys?
Well, the guy that I've seen in person, obviously, is Ryan Timmons from Franklin County. I saw him at a camp this spring. He was going up against, Cam Burrows from Ohio, who's a guy who's going to Ohio State. Has been an All-American player for them, and he was. I mean, he did well. He was getting away from getting open, jumping up for balls, and then obviously when you see him playing for Franklin County this year. It was impossible to tackle the guy. I mean, he was he's super fast, great escapability, good hands, and he's really got great size too. At like 5'11", 190. I mean, that's an ideal size for a slot receiver in college. And he can also take that sort of sweep handoff as he goes in motion, things like that. I would expect him to play next year. Obviously, Javess Blue, Stephen Borden. I mean, these are guys that they recruited as junior college players. They didn't recruit them to play 3 years from now. They recruited them to play next season. So I would expect them to be in the mix. And then, a guy like JoJo Kemp, I think that they probably definitely recruited him as someone they expect to play immediately.
All right, Steve Jones from the Louisville Courier-Journal. Thank you very much for joining us. Always good to talk with you, Steve.
Thanks a lot for having me.